Instagram reels just show me a fucking man getting eaten by a shark and I'm feeling sick. It's not my favorite part of the day, but sometimes you have to suffer for a comedy, I guess. That's the price of using Instagram reels. Sometimes you're gonna get traumatized. But holy fuck, that's... Ah, damn, I don't know. Shall we do a quick turpid session? This is probably a Doppler effect. Maybe not. Okay. Isn't this like the bulk module? Oh. Yes. This is the mass density on the string, right? So I think this might actually be... No, can't be. We don't have any way to know the force, I don't think, and we don't know the mass. Or density, I guess. Now this one, if this is the period length, this... I'm not sure what this is. But maybe if you divide it by the mass, we only have... This is a gas. I don't know. Can we solve it with this? Så bølgelengden har ikke gitt til 15 cm. No way. Nei, den her er det ikke. Nei. Oh. We basically have this thing where these like flip up and down, if that makes sense. Which would mean the wavelength is just 15 centimeters. Okay. Which would mean this is actually 30 centimeters, I think. The wavelength. So I'm guessing this is yes. Okay, that wasn't too bad. guess. Wait, this is constant in the medium, I think. Hmm. Damn, I don't think this. Okay, we can maybe make this ourselves though. Okay, how would this be? Okay, so the frequency. No. You know what, let's remake this drawing. I'm assuming that the shortest path is this. Okay, let's not. It seems like this here is a raid. Nope. This here will be this length. Making such that this length. This 18 squared. Så det hinter jo jævlig til at Jarfly flyr. Når jeg er rett over deg, så sender det ut lydbølger. Det er de første som treffer. Så går det en strekning. Så basically jagerflyet kommet seg en strekning kom seg den strekningen her på en periode perioden det tok for lyden å komme ned her. Ok, så vi har en eller annen tid det tar for lyden. Tid for lyd. Ja, vi kan egentlig bare det. Tiden for lyden å gå den distansen er litt. Hastighet lyd er gitt ved en eller annen strekning H over en eller annen tid. Slik at tiden er høyden over lydhastigheten. Om vi ganger tiden H i andre minus VT i andre, så får vi strekningen til jagerflyet. Slik at farten til jagerflyet er denne strekningen her. Over tiden. Ok, det er en annen tid. This is not such a difficult question. What the fuck? We should try this one again. I think I forgot enough to make it work. It's such a good fun exercise. Jesus Christ. Let's see why. I'm assuming the simpler case, basically. Let's try again. I think I have enough hints, maybe? Possibly. Probably not. But I like the way of thinking, though, which might be useful. Plain. Moves with the speed. Sends out sound. Let's call this point. That's fair, actually. Which will hit us. Wait, I think ChatGPT is wrong here. Okay, never mind, that's fair actually. Let's take lunch.
Good morning and welcome to a beautiful Bruges. We're here for the second monument of the season. The Tour
That's how she looks?
To a beautiful Bruges. We're here for the second
No way.
monument of...
Holy shit. I thought it was... I've listened to that voice for so long. I thought she was like a 60-year-old with grey hair or something.
Of the season, the Tour of Flanders, the Ronde van Vlaanderen, and already the atmosphere is building very, very nicely. There are plenty of crowds wanting to try and see their big favourite ahead of the race as they go to the sign-on. It's nice here, I have to say. It's blue sky, it's sunny. We're looking forward to it. Here we are.
They woke up and they were thinking about you. What do you want to tell them?
Yeah, I want to tell them thank you everybody for coming. It's amazing to see so many people.
It's the 14th Sunday of the year, and as tradition dictates,
I don't even want to see this guy's face. I listen to him too much.
time for Flanders' finest.
To see all the riders really close to us.
Then within himself across the flat, and now pushing.
Prime Minister, dear Jonas, a very warm welcome to Brussels. Norway is a member of our European family, and we are united by shared values, and we are integrated through our single market. When faced with shared challenges, we are keen to explore common solutions. That's exactly what we have done today, and our discussion showed how much we have in common. We discussed from the support to Ukraine and defense to the way how we are going forward with US tariffs. Our cooperation makes us stronger. That is the quintessence of what we've discussed today. On defense, Norway will be able to participate in the joint procurement of SAFE. That's our €150 billion loan program. And industry in Norway will be treated like EU industries. On Ukraine, I was very pleased to hear what your plans are, because Norway has from day one on being a key supporter. If we take now our financial support combined with your own assistance, this will make a difference for Ukraine right now. We, of course, also discussed the progress on the Green Alliance, which we signed in April 2 years ago. We're turning words now into reality through concrete products, from offshore wind to hydrogen to CCS and CCUS. And in particular, we agreed to speed up the coordination between Norway, member states, and our companies to get even more projects up and running. Because in the global clean tech race, we also know together we are stronger. We also discussed the effects of the US tariffs. These tariffs come first and foremost at immense costs for US consumers and businesses. But at the same time, they have a massive impact on the global economy. Especially hard hit are the developing countries. And this is a major turning point for the United States. Nonetheless, we stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered zero-for-zero tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal, so we keep it on the table. But we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests. And in addition, we will also protect ourselves against indirect effects through trade diversion. And for this purpose, we will set up an import surveillance task force. We will work with industry to make sure we have the necessary evidence base for our policy measures, and we will stay in very close contact to minimize effects of our actions on each other. Today and tomorrow, I continue my intense outreach to the industrial stakeholders in the European Union. I met with the steel and aluminium industry this morning, as well as Business Europe and SME United. I'm meeting the automotive industry still today and the pharmaceutical industry tomorrow morning. We're discussing the response to the United States, but also the other two pillars of our strategy. The one is strengthening our single market, so getting rid of remaining barriers. And the other pillar is diversifying our trade relations. Specifically, further diversifying our trade relations is very critical for us because this broadens the market opportunities and is crucial for our companies. So we will focus like a laser beam on the 83% of global trade that is beyond the United States, vast opportunities. And this is why we're deepening our relations with our trading partners. You know the deals that we've done with Mexico, Mercosur, and Switzerland. We're working on India, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and many others. By that, we want to be very clear Europe stands together for our businesses and with our businesses, for all Europeans in the European Union and beyond. Thank you very much. Thank you.
When Trump tariffed all of America's trading partners on Liberation Day, he said it was about reciprocity. In other words, he was only imposing tariffs.
What's up, everyone? We had a wild week last week. I think it's going as expected. I think the tariffs are really neither here nor there, even though it's all anybody can talk about. A little bit of that is myopia. I'm going to just start with some general comments, and then we can go over to stocks. There's a lot of things to think about here. Obviously, we haven't had a real trade war in forever. I think that there is this question about whether the deficit rubber would have to hit the road, and I think that rubber is hitting pretty clearly. So ultimately, one of the ways to think about a $27 trillion deficit is in a confiscatory way, which obviously I don't think anybody wants to think about it that way. But let's say you had a $27 trillion deficit, and you wanted to solve that because every year it seems to be going up, and there's no way to solve it through politics as usual. There's entitlements that are hard to break. There's tax revenue that's hard to increase. It's already fairly high. How do we solve this problem? Well, we have these unilateral tariffs that are placed on us, but we don't really have them on others. Although, regardless of what the real story is, we still need to close the $27 trillion gap. So one of the ways that you can do that is to look at all the assets in the world, which is probably pretty good common ground to start from. If you start with that, you can work your way backwards. So there's only $400 trillion of wealth, period. Okay, so there's 27 trillion we need, and 400, period. Now we could grow into that somehow, but confiscating the assets is a little simpler. And if you think about that $400 trillion of assets, how much of it do we own, and how much of it do we sort of have auspices over? I think we own, or household wealth is around 100 trillion, and the auspices probably cast a shadow. The U.S. sort of cast a shadow over, another 100 or 200 trillion. So the theory is, let's say the number's 300 trillion. We basically have to take 10% of that and pay off the deficit with it. And the way you can take it is you can do it in a wild, aggressive, hostile way, which nobody wants to see. You could raise taxes, dramatically, or you could just simply, tariff. And I think that was the solution that was chosen to solve the fiscal problems of the country. Well, again, you basically have to take 10% of that. Their own, or household wealth is around 100 trillion, and the auspices probably cast a shadow. The U.S. sort of cast a shadow over, another 100 or 200 trillion. So the theory is, let's say the number's 300 trillion. We basically have to take 10% of that and pay off the deficit with it. And the way you can take it is you can do it in a wild, aggressive, hostile way, which nobody wants to see. You could raise taxes, dramatically, or you could just simply, tariff. And I think that was the solution that was chosen to solve the fiscal problems of the country. And so if we tariff that $300 trillion base of assets that we have sort of control over, we can roughly, get a sense for, doing that, say, 1% a year for 10 years, and then their deficit would be closed, assuming we can get to budget neutrality in the meantime. So that's sort of one way to do it. Another way to do it is to grow your way out of it. If the 400 trillion is growing, you can, tariffs are, basically a form of tax. So there's only two ways out of it, which is lower your spending or raise your revenue. And tariffs is just sort of a modified form of taxation. Instead of taxing income, you're taxing sort of trade. But in any event, the other way is to grow the base. If we go from 400 trillion to 800 trillion, sort of half your problem is solved that way. And I feel like one way to do that is through AI. Another way is through all kinds of other things, just simply growth. And politicians of the past have been willing to borrow from the future and trust that growth is going to outstrip that deficit. Some of the swamp creatures I know, some of the deep state people that I have had the pleasure of being friends with, their goal is just to make sure that the rate of borrowing is outstripped by the rate of growth, and that eventually those two will cross, and that the spending that we take is an investment, in essence, on an investment in our people, like things like healthcare, entitlements like that, or are in essence investments in future growth. That hasn't really played out that well. Growth seems to be driven by people like Elon Musk and Sam Altman more than it seems to be triggered by the average person being a little healthier through Medicare and Medicaid. So in any event, that's sort of what I think is going on there. I don't think it matters that much for U.S. equities. And you might say, Martin, well, everyone's talking about it. How could it not matter? Are you stupid? And I'd say, no, you're stupid. The basic premise here is that if you arrange a bunch of plywood, dry wood, I'm not an expert in it, but something very combustible, and you put it on the floor and you say, well, there's matches here, there's gasoline there, there's friction over here, and you're surprised that the fire starts. You shouldn't be surprised. The reality is that the market, after 20% in 2 years in a row, roughly 40%, there's sort of a bunch of dry, combustible wood there ready for a fire. And anyone striking a match will set ablaze, a very big conflagration. And so, the terrorists did that, and there's no doubt about that. But, we have had this blaze, these plywood arranged for quite some time. We arranged some with quantum computing. We arranged some with meme coins. We arranged some with MicroStrategy. We arranged some even with good companies like Palantir. We arranged some all across the board. And so, by sort of arranging that plywood and stacking it high and making sure the room was super dry and there was lots of matches lying around, nobody should be surprised that there's a fire. Nevertheless, the news has to do something and the market has to do something, and that's fine. And a little panic can be very healthy. So, here we are. And again, the mission remains the same. Buy good stocks, short bad ones, and you will win. I think we're winning. We feel like you're winning. So yeah, we'll log into the 30K account in a second. Nice opportunity actually to short IonQ, Wave, and Rigetti. So I really do want to log into that account. Our Nvidia rebounded a little bit, so we bought that at 93 on Friday, and we even bought HIMS. So I might want to sell out of those and short. Oh, okay. They have so many investment accounts. I'm not sure which to log into. Give me a minute. Yeah, these stocks were down last week, so a little rally is not unexpected. You see there's some rally in a bunch of things. SPYs are up now, 30 basis points, kind of incredible. Let me see here. Okay, that's loading. So like one example, I don't think you guys can see this very well, but let's look at some S&P 500 stocks. So here's Microsoft, $359. I do EM, this is a new function, and this is my favorite because on Bloomberg, the legacy system that we're replacing, because they gave us. EM is probably my number one used function, and you guys will Bloomberg, the legacy system that we're putting some S&P 500 stocks. So here's Microsoft, $359. I do EM, this is a new function, and this is my favorite because on Bloomberg, the legacy system that we're replacing, because they banned us, EM is probably my number one used function, and you guys will, call me not a purist for doing this, but this is just basically consensus estimates. And so
That's pretty cool, actually. Holy.
we have FactSet consensus estimates, which we double check. They're actually the same as the Bloomberg estimates. So you get the same estimates, actually for free, technically, right now on Goodell Terminal that Bloomberg has, which Bloomberg's pretty expensive. So anyway, this is the function I use the most on Bloomberg, when I used Bloomberg before they banned me and made me their worst enemy.
This one will be an AI problem, though. Because the idea I was flirting with was having we basically set the value of each company based on our own model. And if the difference in price between two companies change, we would price that in. The problem here being that there might be some good reasons for why it changed that we wouldn't capture with a model, which would make the model pretty bad. Fuck. Okay. How would I capture a company's value in real time?
And in fact, it's sort of laid out pretty similarly to the Bloomberg function, and it does need to be prettied up a bit. These columns are a little too wide. I told my cosmetician, I think they call them front-end people now, But in any event, you can see here, and these should be changed a little bit as well. The formatting should be 0.0x if they're listening. But you can see that Microsoft is at 27 times fiscal 25 and 24 times fiscal 26, which isn't that bad because it is a decently growing company. Let's check Google. So Goog, $150 stock, 16 times. I don't know if you guys see that. 16 and a half times fiscal 25 and 15 times fiscal 26. And you can click revenue here. So you can look at sales, incredible sales, 400 billion in revenue. You can click EBITDA, you can click net income, any of these cash flow, which we love to see. All those things you can compare and look at individual quarters. And basically when you make your model or you download my model or you don't even look at a model, you can use these to compare the individual quarters and say, wait a second, Wall Street thinks it's going to be this much. Why am I so different from Wall Street? And I think that's kind of neat. Let's look at Eli Lilly, which is the biggest drug company. It's 31 times and then 25 times. Let's go to Merck. So Merck is a funny one because Merck is in debt and it's 9 times earnings and 8 times 2026. The problem with Merck is that eventually Keytruda goes off patent, and that's a huge part of their earnings, by half the company. So the earnings multiple actually go up over time as the earnings go down. The E and the PE is not so great. So again, I'm not a huge fan of PE ratios because I think they encourage laziness. We will make sure we get 27, 28, 29 estimates as well, and perhaps that'll be more of a paid feature. But in any event, I think that the Merck situation is very unique. I looked at Merck very closely, and I didn't think it was that great. PayPal is one I want to dig into. I think it could be a really good long trade around. 10 times earnings. Not much growth over at PayPal, but 10 times earnings, 10 times earnings. Let's look at a few others. How about Amazon? 27 times, 22 times. Let's see. How about ExxonMobil? I never look at energy. 14 times, 12 times. That's not bad. JP Morgan, 11 times, 10 times. So it's really just the Mag 7 that's all messed up, right? How about NVIDIA? NVIDIA is 32 times and 20 times. That's actually not bad for the greatest technology company on the planet. Not bad at all. What else? Procter & Gamble.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna make a coffee, I think, and then work out, and then work some more on physics, I think.
23 times, 22 times, no growth there. Sorry, I have no blinds here, so I don't like streaming from here because the sun is literally in my eyes. Costco is 51 times and 46 times. Again, for very limited growth. So that, let's click on revenue growth and see what we're working with here. But the revenue growth is 8% and 7%, if they meet those numbers, right? They may not meet those numbers, but it's that's pretty good growth for a retailer. But I'm not sure. Remember, it's 50 times earnings. Walmart conclusively has no growth, last I checked, and 34 times and 32 times. Sales closer to single digit, inflationary levels. How about like Regeneron or Gilead?
But this thing is well made, only. What's like the shortcut to... Focuses a terminal. Oh, fuck. Oh, I can back. Okay, cool. Was that not how I did it? Okay, how the fuck to use it?
Regeneron or Gilead 34 times and 30. How about like
Where is it?
Regeneron or Gilead? How about like Regeneron or Gilead? How about like Regeneron or Gilead?
Basically, is this like... Okay, the ticker, and if you look at the option, save filings, no. Quote, no. Option, equity, function. Okay, there. I feel like if you know this, and, like no shortcuts and stuff, this is very useful. Wait, what's that like? So if I do cur em, oh, em price. Okay, that doesn't count, I guess. Is this supposed to do anything? Is there no more growth, really? Oh, fuck. tab to fill. Oh, option is just a standard. NVIDIA option. Then just give you every command here, I guess. There has to be a way to search. What?
Times, 12 times for Regeneron, Gilead, sort of same category. Gilead's really attractive because they're coming out with this basically a cure for HIV. If you've been following Gilead for 25 years like I have, it's a company that's basically solely dedicated to HIV. And, they've tried to sort of get diversified, but they've also not wanted to abandon their strength in HIV. So they have routinely had the best cocktail HIV sort of pill, and they've had once daily pills for a really long time, about 15, 20 years. And those once daily pills have changed the game for HIV. But now they're moving, and it's a bit of a risky move, we'll see what happens, but they're moving to an injection. And the injection is twice a year. And you don't have to remember to take your pill. And the pill is problematic because if you have HIV and you forget to take your pill for even as little as a few days, the HIV will come back. And it could be mutated, which you don't want. So the pill is not only, the shot, the new Lenacapavir, the new product, I think it could be one of the best-selling drugs of all time, possibly Keytruda-sized. And the reason for that is a few reasons. You could actually, for the first time, eliminate HIV completely. And why do I say that? Well, if you take the drug prophylactically, so you take the shot and you're HIV negative, and you take the shot, you're basically covered for 6 months, if that makes sense. So, there's a really good shot here, no pun intended, where you can actually use this product as a vaccine as well as a treatment. And that's something that's never really existed before. There was PrEP, but PrEP had this problem, it was sort of like the morning after pill, where you sort of had to remember to have it and time it and all this. With Lenacapavir, you do a twice yearly shot, perhaps in the future it'd be even less frequent. And I think that's something that the HIV community is going to adopt very quickly. It's HIV in general, it's a bit of an unusual thing. It's a very specific kind of market, but it's something interesting. The economic aspects of the real HIV problem, the problem's everywhere, but the problem in Africa, that dynamic is very different. Now, again, if Bill Gates would be generous and give Gilead $50 billion, then, I'm sure we could solve the HIV problem in Africa. But some of the problems in Africa include a resistance to taking medication.
Sort of. Not much. Burde jeg huske hvem du var? Hello? Keyboard layout switch. kommandoer, da? Kan nettopp forklare hva du snakker om. Osfold? Holy shit. Jeg er ikke Google meg, ok. Hvordan fant du meg, egentlig? Ja. Nei, det så bra til. Jeg har begynt å streame i oppgaver for å holde meg litt til. Ja, nå. Hold meg på riktig spor. Ikke prokrastinere så mye. Bare fant du meg tilfeldig på Twitch, eller? Og på Discord. Kan alle i klassen min se at jeg streamer også? Ja, det kan de. Oh, shit. Sitter i forelesning kun til fysikk gjennomgang. Ok. Jeg bare send av gårde. Faen, det tenkte jeg ikke på. Alle i klassen min kan jo se at jeg streamer. Kan jeg skru det av? Jeg har sikkert litt kleint også. Ok, faen. Trenger du hjelp? Eller var det mer sånn kunne trengt hjelp, greier? Faen, var det skru av det? Holy shit. Tanker om børsen de siste dager. Eller går det nedgang, da? Hvis du putter hvis du gjør markedet mindre effektivt, så har du et dårligere marked som er mindre verdt. Sånn som skjer. Jeg hadde litt flaks da. Jeg solgte ut alt jeg hadde når Trump ble valgt. Så jeg faktisk har Kina-stock også. Så jeg er opp 10% nå siden Trump ble valgt. Så blir det kjøpt meg inn igjen nå. Jeg sitter bare på cash, så. Det er vanskelig å vite hvor dårlige tider det blir, I guess. Midlertidig løsning da. Har du penger i børsen? Har du mistet mye nå? Eller? Nice, okay. Fondet er superkraftig, men har en del i Kongsberg som det har gått bedre med. Ok. Not bad, 30% er jo bra, egentlig. Ja. Svært bra, faktisk. The Norwegian Industrial Complex. Eller Military Complex. Kongsberg står bak at Russland angriper Ukraina for å selge mer våpen til Ukraina. Eller på. Fuck, hva er det da? Er det KOG? KB-Goggy? Nei. Ok, jeg vet ikke om det har funket det. En 1,09. Nei, 4,5 i 2024. Burde ikke vært i fond, men kun europeiske våpenprodusenter. Ja. Men det er sikkert priset allerede da, så det er ikke noe å tjene på det, sikkert. Ja, da. Hvordan man vet om det er riktig. Kan du linke? Det er sikkert riktig da. Okay. Nei. Jeg har tenkt å stikke og trene litt, så jeg stikker da, men jeg har gledet saken da. Jeg vet ikke hva du tenker. Ikke til med strømmingen. Ja, ok, det er ikke noe satsing akkurat, det er mer sånn. Du vet når du sitter i biblioteket, så er det lettere å jobbe, fordi folk ser på det. Det er litt samme tankegangen. Det er sånn der, du vet det er videocallen hvor man kan ringe inn og gjøre skole sammen. Det er det samme ideen. Og så er det litt nice også, fordi folk kommer og hjelper deg. Så jeg kan anbefale det. Det er en fyr som han jobbet med en sånn CEO av et selskap, jeg husker ikke hva det het, i San Francisco, som lager AI. Ikke noe stort selskap altså, men som hjelper med en Alexa, så det var sånn random. Det er kult noen ganger. Nei, vi snakkes da.